have a quorum. We'll go through the agenda, which I have here. I think we'll skip approval of minutes since we don't have Rosemary. We'll talk about next to move to continuing business. Course improvement planning. So work's going on the course.
Yeah, it's finishing up, be all done tomorrow.
The drainage work?
Yes.
Great. And is that when does the path paving occur then?
I talked to them, they'll be opening up April 1st, thereabouts, so they'll be scheduling into that.
Okay, great. And no concerns, everything's just moving along.
Yep, and we plan to open up March 21st.
March 21st. Great. Next was the additional barrier along the fourth hole.
I have no more information.
So I think Rosemary was working on that. So since we don't have her, we'll move past that for now.
Yeah.
We're going to leave on our agenda just continued discussion about minimizing golf balls, wayward golf balls. I don't know that there's anything to discuss about that today, unless anyone has any new thoughts this morning. We'll move past that. Moving on to the golf course annual report.
So Jen and I revised her comments last time, and the copy you've got in front of you is the revised copy. I think she sent it out by email as well.
She did. Would anyone in the audience like to see the current annual report?
Thank you.
And your name is?
I'm sorry, this is Pat.
Okay,
She was.
thanks for attending.
Yes.
And the intended use this time, because we missed the deadline for the town's accumulation of annual reports, is to print it off and have it available as a handout at town meeting. I can take responsibility for that.
Yeah, I just have one more comment. I don't know if anyone else has any more comments, but so the second page, planned. It says irrigation system refurbishment for better conditioning of fairways. I think maybe that language would be better if it was more in line with the town meeting warrant.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is, replace the irrigation system. The old inefficient system with a new efficient system that enhances coverage, something like that. Just so it's more consistent.
Yep.
And then I don't have any other comments. Any other comments from anyone? So then, so let's talk about distribution of this then. So a handout, as we talked about last time, a handout at the town meeting, which sounds great. Yeah, it's too bad they don't have everyone because we had more opinions. Yes, sir.
I suggest that it's very helpful to coordinate with town clerk to make sure he's the one who monitors what goes on the tables outside of the town meeting. And sometimes he has different ideas of what that should be year to year. And so it'd be unfortunate to show up and he said, oh, she got the wrong color.
And that's Jim Haggerty?
Jim Haggerty, yeah.
Yeah.
In the
Okay.
townhouse.
Do you mind doing that, Ira, or do you?
No, I'll take that.
Very approachable. He's usually in his office and stop by and just chat.
Yeah,
Let him know what you want to do.
Yeah.
And he will suggest whatever else he thinks is appropriate there. And if it's a
Okay.
problem, let me know. But usually he's pretty flexible about stuff. I mean, you can't, put out a 500-page handout or something. I assume you're still thinking about one page front and back kind of thing.
That's the way it looks right now, and the one suggested I won't change that.
And do it on a color of some kind that hopefully will be
He
coordinated.
has to approve green because it's golf.
Uh,
I'll twist his arm.
So, but it's very helpful if questions come up during the discussion of the article, you could simply say the green handout talks about the golf.
So that's a very helpful
Be
suggestion.
distinctive there. But somebody may have already claimed that you may have to negotiate or buy the rights. to
There are
green
various
for it.
greens.
Okay, so keep us posted on that, please. And then, yeah, it's too bad we don't have everyone here. I mean, we've had discussions about should we post this? Well, I guess it could go on the website somewhere. Obviously, the golf committee website somewhere, I guess, or maybe Jim Haggerty would have an opinion about that. But do we want to? What and when do we want to submit to My Southborough? I guess is my next question. Do we want to submit this to My Southborough? We've sort of We didn't really talk about that much last time. I think there are pros and cons. Or maybe we just
My-
hand it out at the town meeting.
I think we start with that. My shoot from the hip is we ought to submit it to the town before we submit it to my Southborough.
Yeah. Yeah. So why don't we go with that for now?
And I will ask Jim about both posting and to get us synced up with the calendar to make it official the next time they crank out an annual report.
Yeah. Sort of just jumping around here. Do you think we should have one more meeting before the town meeting of our committee? Just to talk about things? What do you guys?
I won't be here.
You won't be here. Oh, that's right. We have some.
I leave Monday.
I
don't know if we can have a
don't
forum.
have a strong feeling one way or the other. Let's see how we go through the presentation before town meeting before we,
Okay,
unless,
sorry, well, we'll come back to that then. Okay, so then thank you, Ira. You'll work with Jim Hegarty, figure out how we get that annual report published and, you know, on the town website somewhere and as a handout. So keep us posted on that. Okay, I think we can move past the town handout, the annual report. The presentation that I emailed to the committee yesterday, just incorporating changes we talked about last time. Now I could project this, I think, right? Everyone can see that. I did not change this first page. It's the PDF. So simplified this slide to just say several course improvements implemented over the past 2 years that are described in the annual report. So there's less text on the screen. This, I think it was just some minor wording changes.
English teacher.
Yes, yes.
Capitalizing system makes you sound German.
I'm flexible on what gets capitalized.
In the bullets.
Yes.
In the main bullet, it's fine.
I was a little torn about how much to, yeah, so you don't like capitalizing current irrigation system?
No, in the main bullets, it's fine because
No.
current and irrigation are also capitalized. In the minor bullets where system is the only word capitalized, that looks Germanic to me.
I see. I am a little bit Germanic, so we can go to lowercase s's if you'd like.
They're appealing to the German vote in the town hall. Yeah. That's
My
right.
wife may or may not show up.
Okay, so excellent observation, so we'll go with lowercase s there. Any other comments on this slide? Oh, Ira and I just chatted about this briefly before we began here, that I think it's more likely than not that I will be here that Saturday at this point, since my elbow's not recovering as quickly as I was hoping. But I'll coordinate with Ira. One of us will present. But I think it's more likely that I'll be here to talk on Saturday.
In case your elbow acts up during the thing, you can invite me up.
Emergency replacement.
An emergency replacement, that's right. Oh, I can't talk.
Hey, Tony, also just a suggestion. I don't know the exact procedure for this, but you need to coordinate with the moderator or Mark or Vanessa to get a copy of this available to whoever's running the video system at the meeting. So
Yes.
they can pull it up at the time when whoever gets up to speak about it does that. So
Excellent.
the moderator is actually having a pre-town meeting prep meeting another week or so here that is invitation only. So if you haven't been invited to it, that's not a problem, but he's invited people for whom he thinks there may be controversy or whatever to talk about.
I don't recall receiving an invitation to that special.
So you're probably not on the list then, which is
Okay,
fine.
so that's a good sign.
And I think that there is a remote chance, I don't think it's likely that this article would be on the consent agenda. I haven't seen the list of consent agenda items, but the moderator comes up with a list of things that get bundled together and voted up or down as a group, which cuts
so-
down on conversation and time spent for things.
That would be a good sign if we
That
were
would be
on.
a very good sign if you were. I don't think that's likely, but I've not heard.
I agree, but a question to you, if we do make the consent agenda and if we make it through, should we skip over doing the presentation?
No, you wouldn't be
Because-
called on to do the presentation.
Because it would
All the
be,
consent is bundled in,
presentation.
so all that. Yeah, I would be very quiet if you do make the consent.
We're very good at not saying anything, so.
Very strategic.
Okay,
Again,
we will,
unlikely, but
we will hope for that outcome.
theoretically possible.
Okay.
Who makes that decision?
Moderator,
Oh,
the moderator runs the meeting, so the select board or other boards don't really have any say in the process. They can provide input, but
And I don't recall, who was the moderator?
Paul Sabino,
Also.
CIMINO. He's former select board member, former planning board member, and an attorney, so it helps.
Guess there's no reason for us to chat with him.
I don't think unless, unless there's some question or whatever about the procedure of the process, but again, my advice is always, remain quiet unless
Just leave it
called
alone.
upon, unless you've got a
Yep.
big issue that you need to get addressed.
Okay, we will leave it alone. I think other than the two capital S's, then we're okay with this slide, is that correct?
I like it. I think it hits the right level and count.
Seeing no other comments. So then this was additional text from the previous version. I pared it down a little bit.
On the third bullet, I don't suggest changing wording necessarily, but we should be prepared to say, to anticipate somebody saying, you've got this revolving fund, why don't you just build up the reserves in the revolving fund and pay for it yourself in another year or two, and we have to be able to, if possible, crisply forestall that question or answer it.
Right.
The fundamental answer is we're not allowed.
Well, you're not allowed to have CPA front or CPC front the money and then pay them back. That's what's not allowed.
Oh,
What you could do is you could accumulate the revolving fund to a large amount. There's currently a $75,000 cap on the revolving fund, so that would have to be relaxed, which the town could do certainly. But the other side of it for me is that to do that, I'm just making up these numbers, but the revolving fund is the course is now producing $70,000-$90,000 in the last couple of years. So in fact, if you did it all, it would take 5 years or whatever to pay for it. And if you actually did part of it because you need some of that revolving fund for annual operations support, you're talking about between 6 and 10 years probably to wait, and that's a long time to forego a lot of revenue that could come back to the town in larger numbers. So
Okay.
several moving parts there, but that's a good point to be ready to address that succinctly should it come up.
Yeah, so I've thought about that some, and it seems like the short answer is, well, there's a limit on how much fund money can be accumulated in the revolving fund. Even if that were changed, then it could take upwards of a decade to accumulate the funds necessary to replace, fund the irrigation system replacement, putting at risk, yearly revenues from the course if it doesn't rain. At least that's how I think about it.
And the long-term prospects of the course's condition.
Yeah.
Let it dry out for 10 years and not have grass.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that's.
any comments on this slide?
I just, no, well, I don't know if I had a question. So how much do we anticipate, or will we anticipate feedback from just the town people concerning like someone, obviously someone, if it's open to the public, they can just say something like,
Oh, yeah.
why are we, I'm not a golfer.
Yeah.
Why are we you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, should we be prepared for something like that? Because we look at all the other projects that have gone on in the town that I might not have benefited
Right.
from, or you might not have benefited from, and, I mean, do we do that slippery slope, or just
I would
be prepared, but don't say anything?
I'd be prepared, but I mean, again, from my view on that is that, you know, it's hard to get in trouble by saying too little.
Okay.
And so, you know, I've heard you guys talk about the possibility of having a few people primed to stand up and say positive things should the discussion get longer about the process. But I think that simply, to your specific question, this is a public asset that has been phenomenally successful and will likely continue to be. And like other public assets, not everybody uses all of them, but this is something that's important for the community, and it's certainly far superior to having 60 condos built out there. So, and you know, I wouldn't argue with people. You have trouble if you start arguing with somebody. Simply make a couple of points and let it go at that. Most of the audience is pretty reasonable.
Yeah,
Listen.
but I mean, I think that's a, you know, it's a good
Well, that's, I
observation.
had Pat is
And-
one of the
yep,
people that
so-
was talking about that she's willing to speak if in
Yeah.
favor of it,
Yeah.
if,
Yep.
yeah, so
And I think,
have people in reserve if we need it.
I think that's right. And I think you know, that we've had many discussions now with various committees and boards in town, and we've heard many questions. And so I think you know, I think we have a good sense of how we should answer some of these
Yeah.
things, right? There's been a lot of Q&A and a lot of analysis of this now from
Yeah.
various people. So
Yeah.
I'm not expecting a question from the audience that we haven't heard already.
Okay.
And again, you got support from advisory. There was a 5-1 vote, and the one against just basically didn't think we should spend the money for a golf course, and you're not going to change his mind. But you had a 3-2 vote in support for the select board. One of those two actually changed their mind. So I don't think we're going to revote that. I may ask to revote that. But again, support from both boards here is helpful.
It's a
It
good,
might be helpful if it's convenient, just to be, kind of be 4-1 instead of 3-2, but
Yeah,
I don't know what the difficulty is of doing that, so yeah.
I'm noodling on whether I want to raise that
Yeah,
issue, but
yeah.
we have a chance to do that.
Yep.
So if it comes up, but usually what happens is when the article is presented, it says, you know, advisory support, select board supports.
Right,
And somebody may ask what the vote was, and so you tell them what the vote, that's usually printed somewhere so people can see that.
Yeah.
They may ask, you know, why did the votes, what were the points against support? And basically, it was just didn't want to spend the money for this particular project. Is what it boiled down to.
right. It's different opinions about how money should be spent.
Yeah.
Anything else on this slide then? And then I always like to have a closing slide, and so I just thought we just simply ask for the support. Unless you folks think we should put something else on.
I think a specific ask is good.
Uncapitalized, preserve, enhance course here.
You would not capitalize it there?
Correct. It's defined in the title.
Yep.
Pull it out, I think.
Okay.
I don't know how many English teachers there are in town.
There are several in the audience, I'm sure.
Any other suggestions for a closing slide? Okay, so I will make those edits and then I will coordinate with Ira so that, and.
With the
And
moderator
purple
staff
to,
or
you know,
whoever.
make sure the presentation's available. And I think we'll have a good discussion or outcome at the town meeting. So, okay, I think we can move past that. Oh, and then so Pat, so thank you for being willing to stand up in support. I think there were 2 people that Lynn lined up to stand up and provide support. You were one, I forget who the other one was. I'll look at my email. And so let's just talk about, so I guess it's possible that you won't need to stand up because that would be good.
Lynn might have, I don't think Lynn even, did Lynn reach out to you?
Yes,
Okay, because I knew I did, so I didn't know if Lynn had 2 others. So,
I think there was one other person. I'll go through my
okay,
email
just to
then.
have in reserve.
Just to
Okay.
have in reserve. And
was
so
it
I think,
Michelle? Or is she gonna be away?
I'm not sure.
I know that several people that are golfers are going to be away. I
quite
think
a few
Michelle was
people
away.
are away.
Okay.
And so I think, it might very well be that you don't need to stand up. And certainly if you feel that you want to stand up, then you should, certainly if there are, questions, I think, then you want to stand up and provide support. Sam, I don't know if you have any advice to Pat about how to talk. I don't know how often Pat has spoken in front of the town meeting.
No, again, I think it just sort of, my theory is that you want to read the mood of the hall there. And if things are going well, then I'd stay out of the way. But if people are asking questions and so forth, then I think it's great to have several people stand up. This is an important thing for me personally for these kinds of reasons. And I think that the town should support this. And as I said previously, I think there were a couple of very positive comments from the Recreation Commission. And I'm hopeful that one or two of them would be ready to stand up and reinforce if the discussion goes on for it. And so I think a couple of commentaries from golfers and the Rec Commission and other committees, I think, again, I don't think that the advisory committee people are going to stand up and want to say anything additional necessarily, but they might. I mean, and if it really gets contentious, I'd be prepared to stand up and put my 2 cents worth in there. Although sometimes that can hurt more than help, but you got to be careful. But again, my expectation is it will go very smoothly because town meeting. This is what article number is it?
31.
31.
31.
So there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes before that people are going to be not enthusiastic for long-winded conversations by this time, probably. So,
and then assuming both Ira and I are in the room, then, and if I'm the one, at the podium, then Ira is allowed to stand up and provide support also, I assume.
Yeah, I'll identify myself as a
Yeah.
member of the committee.
yeah, anyone is certainly. But
Yeah. Okay.
I brought Pat in as a ringer, but she's a teacher for many, many years here. And but I believe the head of the Teachers Association, so she's used to speaking in front of people.
Oh, there we go. Then it's a law. Okay.
What I was wondering, would it make sense to bring up the fact that because it rained so much this past year, that the revenue for the golf course, because the grass was green, was way up? Or is that something?
Yeah, no,
It's an interesting opinion that we actually voiced the last time we were sitting here. It's sort of a two-edged sword because you lose some attendance on rainy days.
Yeah, true.
And the conditions are, as long as it doesn't rain too much, the conditions are somewhat more attractive.
Of course, when it's really dry, your ball goes a lot farther.
I don't want to
I
say
won't
that.
say that.
Yeah, so
I think
yeah,
we said that.
but I think, and as if you're standing there and you're thinking about what you want to say, depending on the mood of the room or the questions that have occurred, to point out that we've been fortunate over the last few years because it has rained a lot. And it has hidden the fact that the irrigation system really isn't very effective. So we've had a lot of rounds played because it's rained a lot.
But in spite of the rain that depressed play to some degree, in spite of the fact you can't play during the rain, rounds have still gone up. So that's another indication of the support for the
and
course.
so we want rounds to stay up, and even if it's not raining.
Which would increase it more. if
Which
it's not
is
raining.
why, part of why an irrigation system makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so I think that makes a lot of sense to make that point if it looks like that's kind of how one of the questions the room is asking.
The other point that, not to Pat's moment at the mic, but in general, the other thing I anticipate hearing about, because it came up at advisory, is cost of water. And I just want to re-verify the fact that I believe I understand correctly that comes out of the management company.
Correct. The golf course covers the
Wow.
cost of water.
Yeah.
Providing,
Obviously.
provide revenue to the town. And in other ways to the water. I mean, big picture, somewhere that cost is reflected in the management contract, but specifically on an annual basis, the cost of the water is covered by the management company.
I'd followed up with a couple of advisory members about that same point. So it's not something that both the town is paying directly for there. I guess indirectly, if water was cheaper. you guys might have more margin and you might be able to get some of that more margin, who knows? But point being that that's not something that directly hits the town budget.
Right. It came up at advisory, at least the one that I paid attention to.
Yeah.
In the context of why don't you consider doing a well?
Hmm.
You know, it was
Yeah.
part of that question,
And that answer
and
is-
you handled that beautifully. We're not saying no to a well, we're just not asking for it now.
Right. And I do think there are complexities around a well.
Clearly there are.
So. Okay, well, any other discussion about the presentation? I just want to say, I think everyone's been very helpful in this process. This has been just kind of great in the run up to the town meeting. So I think we've done well. Thank you for volunteering, Pat, to stand up. if
Hopefully I won't have to
necessary.
say anything, it will go through as a bundle and we'll be all set.
That's right, that's right. But I think we can move past that then. I don't know that we had any other business. We're being very effective here today. Are there any other topics you guys wanted to talk about today?
No, I thought it was, yeah, this was kind of like a special meeting,
Special meetings?
special golf course. meeting.
Any other public comments?
Just a thought, I know we're talking about making it better to water. I want to bring out the point that one of the few golf courses that don't have any fairway water whatsoever.
Yeah.
We're sort of, we're up against it, we're competing with people that do have one. We don't have any, okay, so we haven't had that the last couple of years because we didn't hit the wall in July and August. And we used to see, used to really go down. There are a few people, however, that do like it when it's hard because the ball goes a long way.
How did it hit the ball though?
So if we hot top it, we leave it out.
No, how did it hit the ball? So we'll see.
And that's about it. I think you guys have done a good job. One day ask Sam a question. 31 would be more towards the evening. You think? I just say.
It is really hard to predict, yes.
I have a lot of the elderly people that don't want to go to the whole thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know quite how to advise them.
Yeah, yeah, I would be amazed if it happens before, mid to late afternoon.
Mentally, that.
Yeah, but
I didn't even look. When does the meeting start?
10 a.m. I think.
10 a.m.
And so again, it can go till 11 p.m. or thereafter. One of the big ones that was going to generate a lot of controversy was the MBTA community overlay zoning article, and that actually got pulled earlier this week. So that one's that one was, I think, later in the process as well. But again, you just can't predict what's going to soak up a lot of time. But I'd be surprised before mid-afternoon. But again, you never can tell. Maybe what I've seen people do, Dick, is that somebody attends the meeting and then keeps an eye on the timing, makes an estimate. If it looks like you can get a pretty good idea, it's going to be in an hour or so, something like that. Then you send out a text
Right, that's one of the things that.
let people know and come in. I mean, we've seen that from the schools who are very organized, for example, often. And so it's amazing that nobody's at town meeting. All of a sudden, 150 people show up to the school article, and then they immediately leave after the article. So,
Nothing like stacking.
that's right. Well, I mean, that's democracy. But
It's democracy. That's
if you're
democracy.
organized, you can do that. So again, that's my guess, but.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure. I was gonna ask you what the article number was. But how many articles are there?
There, excuse me,
Was it number 31?
31, right? Yeah. Is that what you said?
That's
30?
what I was saying.
Yeah,
There were 47 recently, and I think they're going to try to do about 20 or so on the consent agenda. But there are some that are going to generate, the police are looking for more people, and there are several citizen petitions, I guess, that are later typically. So again, there's a lot going on, but just hard to predict precisely.
Okay. I think we're done here then. We can have them.
I would love to move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? We have adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank
everyone.
you.